In this lesson, we're going to see how we can get WrapTuck to finally throw this dagger object after he collects it. To do this, we're going to take that dagger prefab we had set up in the previous lesson and learn how we can instantiate it as a new game object in our scene. So let's get started. So first off, let's go down and let's go to our scripts. Let's create a very new script here, and let's call this one character throw script. Okay, character throw. So now let's open this guy up here. So this is going to act as our very own script to control all the throwing controls in here. So let's go up here and just do my quick old cleanup and make some space for some new variables, because that's where we'll be getting started in this script here. And the first variable that we need is we need to let Unity know how fast to throw this item, how much force to apply to that rigid body dagger prefab that we created in the last lesson. So let's create this variable now. So I'm just going to say public, I'm going to make this a float value. I'm going to call this one throw speed, and let's just start out with 500, 0.0f as it's a float, and that semicolon. Okay, so let's just comment say speed of our dagger throw. Alright, so that's the first one. Now what's next? We need to create a variable to store the positional information of where to actually create this dagger object. So basically where this thing will be created in our level. Let's create a variable now to hold that spawn point that we created and parented to our character. Alright, so let's just go like this. I'm going to say point of dagger spawn. And to do this, let's create a public, and let's say transform. Transform. Alright, and let's just go dagger spawn. Alright, we'll go ahead and assign that in just a sec here. And the reason why that's a public as a transform is because we just want to grab the transform properties off of one other game object. So it's just going to hold the X, Y, and Z value plus the rotation and scale. Next, we're going to move on and create a very important variable, which is going to be the variable to store that prefab object within it, so Unity knows which object we're going to be sourcing as our clone. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that right away here. Let's go public, and let's make this a rigid body 2D, and let's call this one dagger prefab. Done deal, and we'll go ahead and tell Unity, I'll just say source object to clone. Alright, so it's going to take that rigid body 2D object that we were using with our prefab, and it's going to just launch this whenever we throw. Pretty cool. So now let's go down here. We need one more variable created here, and this variable is going to be the cloned game object. Sorry for that, misspelling the cloned game objects. Alright, so up here we have our source. This is going to be storing our prefab, and whenever we go ahead and create a new object, we're going to take this source and we're going to put it into a new game object that's a clone, so we can spawn as many of these things as we want within our game. So I'm just going to go ahead and name this rigid body 2D, and I'm just going to say clone. Simple as that. So basically we've gone ahead and we've sourced a rigid body 2D object, and now we're just going to be cloning, and we're just going to give it the title of clone. So whenever this is created in our game, you'll see in the hierarchy as we clone, 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 because so we can have as many as we want, and they're all just going to delete themselves after, as we have that other script applied to it. So just a quick recap here. Whenever you're creating a new game object into your Unity scene, you need to tell Unity where to create it, the source object that you are importing into your level, and you need to give it a game object to actually create and assign into your game, which is this clone object here. So those three key points are very crucial for this. So now let's assign these variables here, and let's start at the top here with our transform. So let's go ahead and save this character throw script, and I'm actually going to start off by just going in this awake function here and just manually typing out this first one for our position. Okay, and this position is going to be our dagger spawn variable, and this is going to equal game object dot find. We want to find our dagger spawn point. So dagger spawn, that's that object we parented to our character. and dagger spawn, oops, and I want to say dot transform. We want to get the transform properties of that game object. All right, so we've just assigned our dagger spawn to be the position of our, let's just make sure I spelt it as I remember, dagger spawn point. Actually, let's just go dagger spawn. Simple. So now let's go back to our script here. Let's go dagger character throw. And then the next thing I want to quickly do is just assign our prefab to that dagger source object variable that we created. So let's go and minimize this once again. And let's click on this script here. And we have our dagger spawn, which is set to nothing, or sorry, our dagger rigid body. So let's go into our game art here and let's drag in this prefab and assign it to that variable. Simple as that. So now that's all created here. So now everything's pretty much ready to go in the script here. We just need to start creating and seeing how we can actually instantiate this object when the time's right in our game. Now in this lesson, we're just going to do a quick test to make sure it's working, and then we'll get the full functionality set up and working in the next lesson. But let's just start and just say if input dot get key down up arrow, key code dot up arrow. If we hit the up arrow key, then we will perform our function, which we're going to go ahead and create in just a sec here, called throw dagger. So let's just go and create this throw dagger function and set it up so we can actually see how this is creating the dagger within our game. Alright, so first off, let's just go ahead and create that function. So let's just go and say custom functions. Keep it nice and clean. I always like to do like a little border in there. Alright, so let's go. What did we call this one? We called it throw dagger. So let's just go void throw dagger. Alright, let's create our little brackets there. Bring this out. So now we have our house. Let's go in here and let's just say, okay, what needs to happen within this little function here? First off, we need to instantiate our clone variable, which is up here, and we need to pop this source object into it. So we need to say create this clone object and assign that prefab into it and tell it where and how to do that. And then after we create the object, we need to say add this force so we actually move this dagger across our level as a throw. So let's just get started. First off, we're going to, let's just say instantiate our dagger into our scene. So we use this variable, the cloned game objects. Okay, so I'm going to say clone, the name of that variable. And now we need to assign this to be an instantiated game object of our dagger prefab. So there is a function called instantiate, okay? And now let's go in here. And now we need to say, what do we instantiate? What do we create? We need to create our dagger underscore, or sorry, just a prefab variable that we assigned our prefab to. We created that up here. Source object to clone. All right, so now we've told it what to do. And now we need to get its position. Where do we create this? And rotation also. So our position, nice and simple, we created this dagger spawn, right? So let's go dagger spawn dot position. Perfect. So we're going to take this variable here and we're going to grab the position of that game object. All right. So now what's next? We need to tell it our rotation. So that's simple enough. We just get the dagger spawn variable once more, dagger spawn, and let's just say dot rotation. Okay, perfect. And let's close that off there in that statement. And that's all good. Now, what we've done here is we've said grab this clone variable, which is going to be our new game object. When we call this throw dagger function, it's going to clone this object, it's going to instantiate a new object, and it's going to take this dagger prefab, grab that dagger, tell it where, and the rotation. So there's one more little thing that we need to do, and we need to say as, clone this as a rigid body 2D game object. Because this is a rigid body 2D type, and we're grabbing that rigid body 2D from this prefab here. So this is going to be a fully functional throwable object here. Okay, so that's all set up and ready to go. So now let's go down one and let's go to adding our force. So now we're just going to say add force to our new cloned dagger object. Okay, so now what do we need to do? We have this new clone object created within this function. So now let's take that clone and now let's, oops, oh, add force. Wow, that was just my finger slipped and it did the right thing. Add force. So now we need to tell it what direction to add the force to it. So let's just go ahead and use our dagger spawn point as a reference. And then let's just say transform dot right. So what that's going to do is that's going to say find the position and the axis of our dagger spawn position, and then grab the transform of that and use the right, which is the positive x axis from where it is currently. And we're adding force in the right position now. And now let's just say we want to say how much force to apply to it. Let's go up and use that variable we created, throw speed. Okay, so let's say throw speed. And there's our variable. Let's close this off here, semicolon it out, and we are done. So make sure you save your script. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, but it's really not too bad once you get used to this system here. So we've gone ahead, we've created all our variables, all our objects. We've said when we hit the up arrow key, call our function throw dagger. And our function throw dagger first takes this clone game object that we created, and it says instantiate. Instantiate what? Our dagger prefab, tell it where, our positional and our rotation, and instantiate it as a rigid body 2D game object. And then the next function calls that new instantiated game object, adds the force in the right axis, and based upon our throw speed variable. Alright, so cool. So let's save this once again, and let's go into our game and see. We have no errors popping up anywhere, which is great. And we've assigned all our variables, so let's hit play and see what we have here. Now if this works right off the bat, it's going to be a pretty exciting moment in your game creation history. So I'm moving, I'm going to hit the up key. Oh, what's happening? Nothing. Now why is this? So let's just quickly think about this. We didn't apply the script to anything. Alright, so that's our first problem. So let's get out of here. I just want to show you because, you know, it's always nice to assign your script right off the bat so you don't get into your testing and start panicking. So let's assign it to our WrapTuck character, main game object here. And now we should be good to go here. So let's go ahead and test this out once again. So let's go into our play. The script is actually being called in our game. Hit the up arrow key and still nothing. Why is this? Let's get back out of here. So let's go character movements script. Not that one. Let's go character throw script. Dagger prefab. Right now it actually says none. So I guess that assignment that we did earlier didn't actually work. So let's go and apply it right there. Dagger prefab object. Alright, so let's test this out again, and I promise you it will be working this time. So now we go over. There we go. We have our dagger, and it's being created beautifully. Look at this. Awesome. It is even interacting with my game level there. So, and as you can see, oops, I'm collecting a dagger. But as you can see, it actually will delete itself after 1.5 seconds. That's perfect. So there's just one quick little thing I need to fix, which is the gravity is being applied too much. And I actually just want it to glide across the entire level. So let's go and adjust our prefab very quickly here. So let's go into our game art, dagger prefab, and let's go to our rigid body, and let's say gravity scale, let's set that to 0, as I do not want it to be affected by gravity here. And with our prefab, select it, gravity scale set to 0. So now we go back in here and let's hit up, and now it just floats across our level. But now you can see we have another problem. It's a little bit slow. So simple enough. Let's just go and figure out how fast we want this thing to actually go. So let's go to our character. Let's adjust our throw speed. Let's say 2,000. Just speed it up a bit. Oh my, looks like a bullet shooting out there. Let's go 1,000. Let's fix that up. That's cool. I like that. So let's get out of gameplay mode, and then let's go back and just adjust this to 1,000, as we know that's what we like. Save our game, WrapTuck is ready to rock here. So now we're going around and we can throw our dagger. Cool. Alright, so that was quite a bit of stuff in this lesson here. So let's go ahead and move on to the next lesson. And let's take this whole system we've set up with throwing our dagger and instantiating it into our level, and let's add the gameplay logic that we need for this. Let's say when WrapTuck has the dagger, then he can only throw it then. Alright, so let's see how we can wrap this whole thing up here. I'll see you in the next lesson.